Hello there, I'm Boo, and I like drawing, maximizing my hours in all the Pokemon games to find Chinese, and I really love to complain about lore in World of Warcraft. Today I give you a little look behind the curtain at how I like to level my characters. I always like to go here, even though I don't like Chromie, I definitely like what she has to offer, which is the time walking. Even though I don't like Chromie. Hello, and welcome back to a new episode on the channel. So, last time I gave you a little guide in quotation marks of how I like to level fast in World of Warcraft, and I was not ready for the fact that a small little side sentence such as even though I don't like Chromie, I definitely like what she has to offer would spark such controversies. I was rather surprised that people were actually surprised by me not liking Chromie. I honestly thought that she is kind of a universally not terribly beloved character, but I kind of wanted to take this opportunity to talk about her, why I don't like Chromie. And while I was jotting down a few of my thoughts on this specimen of a character, I also realized that, well, I might as well just talk about Dragonflight as a whole, because many of the problems that I have with the character of Chromie are actually also the reason why I don't like Dragonflight. Now, just a little heads up, because this is the internet, and whenever you put your opinion out on the internet, people just love to take it the wrong way. This is not a video of me hating on the character of Chromie or on any World of Warcraft character in particular. Just with any form of art, it's there to be criticized. And if I say that I don't like something, that doesn't mean that you are not allowed to like it. Or that you're not allowed to tell me that I'm wrong because you feel differently about it. Doesn't really mean that I'm wrong, still means that I don't like the character. If you like the character, all the power to you. Now that we have that out of the way, let's get into it. Dragonflight. Where to start with you? To maybe give you a little bit of a better picture of where I was mentally when Dragonflight was announced. Picture this. Shadowlands is on its last little legs. My heart was just continuously being broken by the horrible story that the Shadowlands were portraying. And then Dragonflight came around. An expansion which was so lukewarm, which had no bite. Look, we make a time skip. Everyone loves everyone now. Sylvanas, we barely know her. My lord, nothing even happened. We all love each other. And honestly, right off the bat, I have to talk about one thing first and foremost that I hate about Dragonflight, and that has been continuously rubbing me the wrong way all through the War Within. Where is the war? Where is the anger? Where is the animosity on both sides? Where is it? You cannot just explain that away with a few years of time skipping and showing us NPCs that get along well. That's great. There have always been Horde and Alliance characters that like each other. But the thing is, to me, in World of Warcraft, one very important thing are the two factions. And these two, they need to keep their identities. And for that, we need to have a divide. And that is just important. I'm not talking about constant war, I'm just talking about Horde and Alliance are not the same thing, and they never will be. So, right off the bat, Dragonflight was off to a rough start, at least to me. Something that I know Blizzard have talked about and tried to kinda talk us into believing them that they had to do this because it was an art decision is the fact that the dragons are barely ever in their dragon forms. It is an expansion about dragons, and yet even the loading screen is simply just showing you a bunch of elves. And therein lies my very first and almost the biggest complaint about Dragonflight, because I, myself, am a very big fan of dragons. I am one of those people that grew up as a kid completely obsessed with dragons. I had so many dragon figurines. I had so many books on dragons. I was dragon obsessed, and I still think dragons are so cool, because deep down, I am still a 13-year-old kid that still thinks that dragons and Star Wars are the coolest thing in the world. So, Dragonflight has little to do with dragons. Dragonflight is pretty much an expansion about elves that sometimes turn into dragons to fly from one point to the other or to growl at each other in cinematics. I do not like that. I think it was such a wasted potential. I think that dragons in World of Warcraft are the coolest when they use their visages to, for example, infiltrate us mortals, and especially the bad dragons in World of Warcraft used that in especially the old Warcraft lore. For example, Nefarian and Nyxia, two of the dragons that I very much love, were prime examples of dragons that like to use their visage form to infiltrate us. But in an expansion where we go into a city that is for these dragons, and excuse me there, looks like a city that is made for elves, I don't really understand that, and I do not really vibe with that. Exactly, Ebonhorn. Now, my next little quarrel is obviously something very personal. I am not a big fan of the Dragon Isles. I know many people think they're beautiful, and hey, all the power to you. I don't like them much. I think they look kinda boring. I haven't really found a single zone where I'm like, wow. I cannot really put it into words, mostly because obviously art is very subjective, but to me that obviously already dampened my first impression, second impression, and last impression of the Dragonflight expansion. Now, one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite original World of Warcraft characters that were not present in the Warcraft canon is Wrathion. Ever since they introduced this little baby dragon back in Cataclysm, I was sold. I like his whole idea of a character. Yes, he was supposed to be something so very different, but he tried and also pretty much succeeded in becoming nothing like his father, Deathwing. I loved his character arc that we were witnessing throughout Cataclysm and Mist of Pandaria, and I really loved what they did in Battle for Azeroth with him, because they portrayed him as the cool and heroic figure that he is. He overcame his little thirst for powers that he was still pretty much almost falling to in Mist of Pandaria, and he became the hero that kinda saved us all from N'Zoth's influences, and I love that for him. So imagine me playing through Dragonflight and realizing that he is nothing more than just a joke to the writers. I do not know who in their writing team hates Wrathion, but I really hope that they either get a different character to write or that they grow the F up, because I cannot get another freaking arc of my baby boy just being written off as a dumb little idiot that cares more about his looks than about saving his friends or being a character that you can take serious. So, also when we look at it from the Wrathion point of view, Dragonflight absolutely disappointed me. Now, even though there are many more points for me that I can bring up if I wanna just complain about Dragonflight for a whole entire YouTube video, I will try to keep it a little bit short. So, I will now just say my third biggest problem with Dragonflight was, without a doubt, its story. I did not care for the characters, and I did not care much for the story either, because in my opinion, Dragonflight really peaked in what I would call the softening of World of Warcraft. Now, don't get me wrong, I do not think that World of Warcraft means that I always need war in my game. I definitely do not. I think, for example, an expansion like Mist of Pandaria absolutely excelled at bringing us a continent that in itself is so much thriving for peace and harmony, but at the same time showed us the absolute abysmal depths of a character like Garrosh, and what can happen if you let someone like Garrosh just run rampart through the Horde. In my opinion, Dragonflight completely and utterly failed at that. Everything was soft. There never was anything at stake. I did not care for the aspects. Why would I care that these super powerful dragons would get even more powerful? It meant nothing to me. I did not care about them whatsoever. Storylines as such, the one of Farak, just felt very shallow and useless to me because he just came in. He was a burning dragon that obviously was doomed the second he tried to take us down, because that's just what happens with bad guys. It's what's going to happen with Xal'atath as well. At least with Xal'atath, they're taking their time again to let her at least breathe for a few expansions. But Farak just didn't, pardon the pun, land for me. I honestly liked Razageth a lot more than him. I thought that she had so much potential and I wish she would have sticked around for more. And just as a little side note, what was up with the whole Primalist Alexstrasza arc? Like, what was that? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I just never really felt good when I was beating down the dragons that didn't get any wings and therefore had to be servants of the bigger dragons. In my opinion, it was a lazy storyline. Don't even get me started on the Jaredins, who were just there so we have bad guys that had no redeeming quality. They were just bad guys, which, you know, in the times of Blizzard acting like their writing is so deep, which it really isn't, just left me a little bit puzzled. In itself, Dragonflight made me feel nothing, which is even worse than, for example, Shadowlands to me, because at least Shadowlands had a few cool ideas, had a few cool visuals, and at least made me feel something. I mean, most of that was hate and rage, but hey, at least, you know, Dragonflight failed in all of these regards. Anyway, now, at the end of the video, let's come back to Chromie, because to me, Chromie kind of is all of that in the form of a little dragon, or should I rather say gnome, because once again, when do we ever see her as a dragon? Oh yeah, almost never, because none of these dragons are ever in dragon form, which is driving me insane. My main reasons why I don't like Chromie. First of all, she is written like a child. That is a continuous problem with all the races, such as goblins, not as much nowadays, but they also have their moments. Gnomes and mecha gnomes. Gnomes have it the hardest. Gnomes are so often just written off as a joke, and especially Chromie is written like a child. You cannot convince me otherwise. That is exactly what she is written like. Also, you can see that in so many instances. For example, the horrible cinematic.
I could not imagine what would have...
Nostormo? Everything's back how it was.
Where she sees Nosdormu, who has survived the Dawn of the Infinite dungeon, I think it was called. That cinematic was the absolute death of Chromie to me, literally. And I used to like that character. The death of Chromie scenarios, which had been a very fun addition in Legion, were one of my favorite solo contents to do. I don't think I can ever step another step into those scenarios again, because she annoys me to no end at this point. She is written so juvenile, so clueless, and this is an ancient dragon. Chromie is so freaking old, and they write her like this. And something that drives me up a wall is her continuously joking around and breaking the fourth wall and just making me feel miserable every single time I have to interact with her. How can every single thing that this woman speaks be a joke? Is no one getting tired of that? Please tell me that someone is getting tired of it, because I definitely am. And on a last little note, I want to talk about a topic that is very dear to my heart: representation. Now, I could make a whole very long video about representation in World of Warcraft and how it continuously fails to really hit the mark, but I just want to add this because obviously this is a video about Chromie, and Chromie has become canonically a trans character, which in itself is really cool. I am in a queer relationship, I am queer and I am trans. I do not speak that often about that because this is the internet and I like to live my life in peace, but that is just a fact. So I like that they made Chromie trans. What I do not like, and that is the case for pretty much all the representation that Blizzard puts into their game, it is very between the lines. You basically have to read a short story to even know about it. In fan canon, Chromie has been rumored to be trans forever, ever since they introduced this character, because her name is Chromormu, which is usually the name of a male dragon, but she has always used the visage of a female gnome, so that is where that stems from. That was not the Noozer's idea, just so we're on the same page. And again, if this works for you, if you feel very represented, if you feel very connected to this character because of this fact, then again, all the power to you. It does not work for me, which is fine. I think, again, art is there to be critiqued, and also matters of representations are there to be critiqued. So just so you know, I am on your side because I'm sitting in the same boat. I'm just saying, this did not land for me, as many of the representation attempts of Blizzard failed, because in the end, they're still trying to play it safe, because you do not want all these people that take offense by stuff like this to stop playing your game. That is just a fact. In any case, this was again a little bit longer than I wanted the video to be. Honestly, I am now a little bit stressed because tomorrow is the new patch and I wanted to have maybe one more video out, and now I will just have to work through the night to make it possible. Well, but anything to entertain you guys, I guess. If you like this video, please consider leaving a like or a comment. It helps and I appreciate it so much. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, maybe consider doing that as well. And just like a last little note, if you disagree with any of my points, that is so okay. Please tell me in the comments, but please be civil about it, okay? Because I don't need a million people screaming at me that I'm so wrong and Dragonflight is beautiful. Yeah, it's great if it is to you. I did not like this expansion whatsoever, and it made me quit World of Warcraft maybe over 10 times. To be honest, if I hadn't started this YouTube channel right around the time that I would have otherwise stopped World of Warcraft, we wouldn't have any of this content, because Dragonflight truly killed my joy for World of Warcraft. But hey, we are back. This expansion is over. I'm so happy to see it gone. And honestly, going to all these places for the sake of this video's B-roll just reminded me that I really don't like Dragonflight. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.